This is the 12.3-inch infotainment system that you're going to find inside of the Hyundai Santa Cruz. It's new for the 2025 plus model year. The previous version, very similar functionality and feature sets. If you want to walk through on that previous gen version, you'll find it down in the description of this video. And there are two different types of screens here. So they're both 12.3-inch. In the highest trim, that's going to include factory navigation. In the lower trims, it won't. So if yours doesn't have factory navigation, you can hook up through your phone if you wanted to use Google Maps, Apple Maps, and Waze through iPhones, and then Google Maps and Waze through Android, which I'll show you as we move through the screen. But let's dive in. I'll show you what you need to know. Starting off, you've got your button along the top. If you tap that, it's going to give you the options of jumping into profile settings or your online manual. You can scan a QR code on your phone, and when you do that, that's going to pull up the owner manual online. You can also look at your guest profiles, or you can add in additional users. So if there are multiple people driving the vehicle, you can move between any of the available options. The guest profile has limitations though, but you can have 3 individual profiles. So it's going to be guest, driver 1, and then driver 2, and then just confirm in order to swap into profiles. One of the benefits of having these set up is that if you've got addresses that you've saved, presets that you've set up, phones that you've connected, things like that, it's going to remember based off of whatever user profile that you're in. You can swipe down from the top in order to get to this quick launch tray where you can toggle the display off, bring it back to life again, and then there are a few other options. If you tap this little feller on the top right, the gear icon, you can add in additional screens. So maybe you wanted to have a hot button press to get to your tone settings, or maybe your beep that we're getting here, and then tap done. It's going to add in those additional screens. You can remove them if you'd like to. You can adjust out. So toggle the display off. There's navigation options, alerts. Quiet mode means it's only going to play the audio through the front speakers. And then the beep that we're getting throughout the screen, if that drives you nuts, you can get rid of it. Date and time's there, which you can tap in order to be able to adjust it. Along the top side, it's whether or not you've got a phone on the wireless charge pad. So if the phone's not there, you'll see the icon disappear, place the phone back again, and you'll get that notification. You've got your current time, which you can tap on that again in order to be able to adjust out your date time. You've got all of your maps and things like that. So let's dive through and I'll show you what you need to know. If your screen has factory navigation, you're going to tap there. You can add in a home or a work address. One of the benefits, you tap the voice command prompt on the steering wheel and you can say,
I'm so sorry.
you could say go home, go to work, etc. And it's going to navigate you to whatever addresses you have saved. Searching for addresses there, you can search by point of interest icons if you want to. You could easily search for, let's actually just do something like this. Nice and Canadian of me, Tim Hortons. Let's look around to see what's available. You can see there we've got some different options that are available. So we'll pick one that's, let's go a little bit further away. Let's choose this one. There we go. If your phone was connected, you'd be able to call. You can route. Let's just go ahead and route out. And look at that. Recommended route versus alternative. So if there are multiple routes available, you could select whichever one you'd like to. You could start guidance. You can avoid things on the route. So did you want to avoid freeways, ferries, toll roads, things like that? Or just go ahead and start in your guidance. And you can see there we've got the address that we have to get to. From here, you can also search for an additional address. So maybe you wanted to go to a gas station. See what's available. And you can see here, we've got a Petro-Canada along the way, so let's just go ahead and add a stop. And then we've got the 2 addresses that we're going to, so you could then start guidance. And look at that, there we go. From here, you can search for another address if you'd like to. You can exit out if you wanted to cancel the route completely. Actually, I probably should have held off on doing that, but the route's now canceled. If you hit the search icon, you can see the addresses that you've searched for. You can hit the little X icon if you wanted to get rid of addresses that you've searched for, or tap again in order to launch into that new route. Look at that. And we're good to go there. You can tap here to see your traffic information. You can reroute. You can look at different options for the route, including edit out. So if you've got multiple stops, you'd be able to remove the stops. You could see nearby information, save. There are some navigation settings here too, where you could show the vehicle speed on your map. You can display traffic information if it's available. Look at point of interest icons. Do you want your fuel prices showing, yay or nay? And then what type of fuel are you going for? Guidance options, do you want to avoid different things on the route? So highways, toll roads, ferries, things like that. Do you want your route to be measured based off of distance or cumulative distance? Are you going cross-border? Basic alerts, Nothing exciting there. Map mode, there are a few different options. So you've got your heading, there's 2D versus 3D. I'm personally a bigger fan of that 3D, but you can select out whichever option you'd like there. You can change up your font size. So do you want it to be larger or smaller? And then there are a few different color schemes. So do you want light, simple, dark, etc.? I like that dark look, but just for this video, let's go light and then zoom in and out. Do you want it to zoom in and out for you as you get closer to your end destination or your next part of your route? Previous destinations, do you want to save them? I'm going to say no to that one, which means that any address that I've previously searched for, it's just going to remove it from the vehicle. So good from a safety perspective. Let's see, I think that's, yeah, those are the big ones. And then your GPS information, you can see where the vehicle's located. So if you're going off-road, vehicle gets stuck, you'd then be able to see exactly where you are. And back from there. Then with the route actively going, the cluster screen doesn't have support for full mapping cluster, but if you tap the little pages button here, you'd be able to see your turn-by-turn directions, so you can see which way you have to go. Tap one more time, and then you've got your basic driving assistance screen with your little turn-by-turn directions there. So while it's not full mapping cluster, that's pretty useful, but if you want a full walkthrough on the steering wheel buttons or the cluster, you'll find that down in the description of this video. In order to cancel out the route, just tap that little X icon again, and the route has been canceled. On the screen, you've got this little split screen, so you can move that away if you wanted to go true or full screen. If you swipe across again, you can move up and down in between different subscreens. If you didn't have factory navigation, your map just wouldn't be there. And then you've got the option of adjusting out your different headings. You've got your guidance, so you can adjust out volumes or alerts. Do you want to get nothing for alerts or for your guidance volumes? So you can adjust those out if you'd like. Auto, do you want it zooming in or out? What do you want the scale to be like? You can do a pinch to zoom this way if you'd like to. If you start to drag around on the map, you could then enter in whatever address you have in the little plus there as your end destination. You can save it or tap back in order to go back to your current location. Back home. That's simple. That's using factory nav. Once you have addresses set up, so your home or work address, you'd then have those along the very bottom of the screen. Which means next up is media. So media, you've got a ton of options here. So you've got Apple CarPlay, Android Auto if they were available, FM, SiriusXM, Bluetooth audio. You can swipe across in order to get to more options. Along the very bottom here, you could also tap this in order to get to radio. So FM, AM, SiriusXM, or all of your available presets. So you could, let's just start fresh. You can go through and you see all of your available stations based off of your location. You could just easily, so anything with a star next to it that hasn't been starred in, these are now going to be your favorited stations. So what I'd recommend, just listen to stations, whichever ones you'd like, and then just adding a few of these in just because I just picked up this press car. And there we go. So now if we go through favorites, you can see there all of the stations that have been favorited, and you can do a mix of AM, FM, Sirius XM. Hold on. There we go. So AM, FM, Sirius XM. So if you wanted to, let's just add in a few random stations here. That one, and let's go 90s and 80s. Perfect. So we go to our favorites. You can see all of the stations that we've added in. Tap through, play any station going this way. HD radio is available there, so if the radio station has all of the available information that they broadcast, that would also pull up. You can enter a station that way if you'd like to, so if you know the station that you'd like to tune to. Along the bottom, tapping this gets you into your Bluetooth audio sounds of nature. If you had a USB stick with MP3s, those would show up.
Turn Bluetooth.
So you've got a series of different audio options that are available. Pause radio that way. You could adjust the volume for your radio on the steering wheel, so you can move up and down this way. You can push in the middle in order to be able to mute, etc. And then down the middle here too, you've also got another volume rocker, adjust it out, or pause your radio as necessary, or pause the audio, I should say, mute it out as necessary. So that's everything you need to know about media. So let's go ahead and add in a phone.
Turn Bluetooth on in your mobile device in order to search. On your device, select the name that matches vehicle name on the screen.
Santa Cruz is there. PIN numbers match up, so let's go ahead and pair. Allow contacts and favorites to sync up. This is not my car, so I'm saying no to that one. And you can stop here, so you're connected over Bluetooth, which means that you can make phone calls, and then you can also stream audio that way. But one nice thing is that you've also got support for Apple CarPlay. That's wireless.
Download was unsuccessful.
It is backwards
compatible.
compatible.
Would you like to try again?
No, it's backwards compatible. So you could use a USB Type-C cable if you'd like to connect over USB rather than going Bluetooth. You are using the one on the left-hand side, and then you just want to make sure there's a button in the middle there that you can tap to switch between either charge mode or charge and data transfer. So just make sure that charge and data transfer are both selected. Then on your phone, you're just going to tap Use CarPlay. Okay, and if this happens, just head back home there, swipe across, phone projection, tap, and it's just connect through now. Look at that, Apple CarPlay. If we hit through, we've got CarPlay. So launched right into Waze. Tapping this gets you into this little icon view. Tapping again brings you into this home screen of CarPlay. You can tap or swipe to get around if you'd like to. But on CarPlay, you've got your current time, connection, and battery level. And then these are the apps that were last opened. So your last opened map, audio application, miscellaneous, with your button to get across. This screen is kind of customizable. You're always going to have the map that you open last, search box, and then music. But if you've got a calendar notification coming up today that hasn't passed yet, that would show up. If there's no calendar event or notification, the search box and the music box would be stretched across the top. But outside of that, you can't customize the home screen. You've got Apple Maps, Google Maps, and Waze that are available inside of CarPlay. No pinch to zoom capabilities still. It's the same way across every vehicle, so you can easily move across. One of the big benefits of using Waze is that as you move through, if there's construction going on, if there are hazards, if people have seen that there are speed traps, things like that, people are pretty good at marking that off. And you can mark things off. So if you notice a speed trap, crashes, hazards, etc., you can let other drivers know. But you've got all the map applications available. Live One's a radio app. Hoopla is a library app. YouTube Music is available here too. Strictly YouTube Music. CarPlay doesn't have the support for video playback. You've got podcasts that are available there as well. Pretty simple. Now, if you can't even get to this point because CarPlay is just not working for you, check down in the description of this video. I put together a little walkthrough explaining how to get CarPlay to work if it's not working for you. And there's some other things you can do. The voice command prompt on the steering wheel, if you do a light push and hold, that is going to be the assistant for the vehicle. So that'll be the vehicle assistant. But if you do a long button push and hold, that is going to bring up your Siri assistant. And then you can kind of customize these a little bit too. You can put it into driving focus. You can change up the appearance, so always dark, light mode, etc. But you can adjust the wallpaper. So maybe there's a color scheme that works better for you and what you like. You can easily adjust that out. And then you can also adjust out the layout of the icons. Now, on your phone, you're just going to go into Settings, General, CarPlay, find your vehicle. You can forget it or you can customize it. So customize, you could easily drag around if you'd like to. So you're just grabbing onto the hamburger icon and moving them around. Anything with a minus next to it, you can remove it from the screen if you know you're never going to use it. But let's say if you've played around with the layout too much, so you've added things in, you've removed things, you don't like the layout, along the top right side of your phone, there's a reset button. So you're just going to tap Reset, Reset, and that's just going to bring you back to that factory default layout for the icons. Simple. If you wanted to get back to the home screen, from here you could tap Hyundai, and that would get you out of CarPlay. Just underneath the screen, there's also a button that you can tap in order to get back to the home screen there, launching back into CarPlay. So pretty simple. If you go back to the home screen setup, you've got your device connections, the iPhone that's currently connected to CarPlay. So if you wanted to disconnect from CarPlay, you could just tap there in order to disconnect. So now you're strictly connected over Bluetooth just for phone calls, or phone calls and media. So you can kind of do a mix and match there. I know that that's a bit, but that's how you set up Apple devices inside of this ride. Setting up Android devices is the exact same process. If you weren't on this screen, you were back home, all you're going to do, go to your setup screen, device connections, and then just add new.
Turn Bluetooth on in your mobile device in order to search.
We're
On
just
your
waiting
device,
for
select the name that matches vehicle name on the screen.
Santa Cruz to show up, so let's go ahead and connect. Perfect. Allow your contacts. I'm not going to allow my contacts to sync up. No, not my car. SMS messages, also not my car. So I'm saying no to that one. And look at that. Device supports Android Auto. So you can, again, stop here if you just want to be connected over Bluetooth. But let's go ahead and connect Android Auto too. There we go. And then just back on your phone. Welcome to Android Auto. So let's go ahead and continue. Look at that. We are fully connected to Android Auto. So you've got this little Android Auto split screen. Along the very top side, you can see your current connection, time, and battery levels. And then from there, you've got a few different applications. So your maps, etc. You've got your voice command prompt, which you can activate that way, or push and hold the voice command prompt along the steering wheel in order to be able to activate it that way. From here, You can tap this in order to get to a little icon tray. Waze is available here. So if Waze is available on your phone, like you've got it installed, but it's not working, check down in the description of this video. I've put together a little walkthrough explaining how to add Waze into Android Auto if it's not showing up for you. If you tap back again, it's going to get you to this split screen, but you can also tap Map in order to go full screen. And it's pinch to zoom capabilities on the Android Auto side of things, which is fantastic. You can search for addresses, you can add in, just in case people see, if there are crashes, slowdowns, police, things like that. Then you've also got the flexibility of being able to customize the icons here, tiny little bit. What you're going to do on your phone, search for Android Auto, you're going to hop into your Android Auto settings, and then once you do that, it's going to pull you up to this screen. You're looking for Customize Launcher, and that's going to give you the flexibility of adjusting this. So maybe you want your phone on the top, you're just going to do a drag and drop. Anything with a check mark next to it, you can either add it in or remove it if you'd like to. So just tapping in order to add in. Now, this is not dynamic though, the same way it was on the iPhone side of things. So in order for these changes to come into effect, get back to your settings, device connections. You're just going to disconnect from Android Auto. You're going to reconnect to Android Auto. Once that launches in, hop back inside. The changes that we made have now come into effect. So not dynamic, but you can still adjust it. You could tap the Hyundai icon there if you'd like to. And then we've got both phones that have been connected. You can have one phone connected for Android Auto, one for Apple CarPlay, not both, but you can do a mix and match. Let's say if you wanted to have one phone call connected just for phone calls and one for media, you could do that. If you have both phones inside the vehicle, you could drag to see who gets connection priority. If you wanted to, you could also easily delete devices. So just tap delete, mark whichever ones, delete, and yes. And both phones have now been deleted from the vehicle. And it's that easy setting up Android and iPhones inside of the Santa Cruz. With those phones deleted, if you go to Bluetooth prompts, you can play mute prompts if you'd like to. There's some system information. So your vehicle name, rather than it being Santa Cruz, you want it to be Bob's Ride, Sally's Ride, etc. You've got that flexibility. You can tap here in order to look at the online manual again, or back to save. Phone projections there, so you've got unique options for Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. So you can disable Android Auto, and then Apple CarPlay would give you some additional options with the phone connected. But that's how you set up phones inside of the Santa Cruz. Swiping across, you've got phone projection, which, because I'm not connected to Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, nothing showing there. You can record voice memos here if you'd like to, so just tap to record. Pretty small space that's available, but it's there if you need it. You can look at weather, there's valet mode, vehicle diagnostics. Now there are some things that you can't do because I'm in the guest profile right now. And that includes things like resetting the infotainment system. So if you wanted to make big changes, just make sure you're logged into one of the other accounts. Which means, I think vehicle setup, there's service maintenance info, HD radio data, your online manual. So let's dive in and look at all of the available settings because there are so many things. You can search for individual settings here. So if you know what you wanted to adjust, so if you know you wanted to maybe adjust out ambient light, if your truck has it, you could search for whatever feature you'd like. That's one thing that I really love about the Hyundai world. But hopping in, you'll see all of these icons done a few different ways, all this info. So you can either see an icon view and you can dive into each of those views, but you can also adjust it out through this list view along the side. Let's start off with driving convenience, and you've got cruise control available, and it's strictly a smart cruise or adaptive. So let's say if you set it at 80, car in front of you slows down, yours is going to brake. They change lanes, you change lanes, it's going to pick you back up to your set speed. So that's the only option there. But you can adjust out the distance, acceleration, and the vehicle reaction speed on top of that. But in order to play with the settings and actually use it, along the left-hand side of the steering wheel, you can toggle the system on this way once the vehicle's actively moving. You can see there, smart cruise condition not met because I'm parked. So you tap it on this way and it's going to set it at your current speed. You could then push up or down to increase, decrease 1 kilometer, 1 mile per hour at a time, push and hold up or push and hold down to bring you to the nearest 10 or essentially 0 kilometers an hour at a time, or move you up and down 6 miles per hour at a time. You could tap there to brake, you can hit the brake to brake, and then you just tap in the middle again in order to resume your previously set speed. There's also a gap adjustment, so distance indicator. It's how close or far are you away from the vehicle that's in front of you, with a few unique levels. I'm personally okay being on level 1 most of the time. You might want to be on level 1 for residential streets, maybe level 1, 3, 4 on highways or interstates, just depending on your own personal comfort level. And then there's also a lane follow assist. So the car is not fully self-driving, but when you've got the adaptive cruise system going with the lane follow assist, it can keep you perfectly balanced in your lane as you drive. It's a phenomenal system. But if you actually want to see the cruise control system used in person, check down in the description of this video for a walkthrough on how that's done. Back a level, you've got highway drive assist, and then the big one here, auto highway speed change. So if the speed drops from, let's say, 80 to 60, it can automatically decrease your speed, but that's based off of your navigation data. So if you didn't have the option with factory nav, that wouldn't show up, that wouldn't be available. And from here, you've got driving safety, forward safety, so the vehicle can automatically brake for you if there's a potential collision. Lane safety is available, so that one's different than the lane follow assist. So the follow assist is actually going to follow bends in the road, versus lane safety, it's going to gently nudge the truck over in order to keep you in your lane. Blind spot view monitor is available here as an option in the highest trims, and that is going to be utilizing the side-mounted camera in order to show you what's in your blind spot right inside of the cluster screen. I don't know about you, I think that's kind of neat. So it utilizes the cameras right underneath the side view mirror in order to show you that. There's your blind spot safety, so if somebody enters the blind spot on either side of the truck, you're going to get, see that, highlighting there, letting you know that somebody's entered the blind spot. Got driver attention warnings, leading vehicle departure. If you come down to a complete stop and the car in front of you starts driving and you haven't moved after a few seconds, it's going to give you a little message letting you know to start moving. Forward attention warning can let you know if you're not paying attention. I'm not a fan of that one, going to keep that off. Speed limit assist, you've got a few different options here. So you could completely remove it from the cluster if you'd like to. So right along the very top there, do you not want to have it whatsoever? But your speed limiter, the assist, you've got warnings and then information. So you could just get that information in the cluster. You can toggle it off, or you can have the assistance option here too, based off of an offset. So where that comes into play, are you okay with going over or under the speed limit by up to 10? So with the assist, let's say if the speed goes from 60 down to 50, all you would then do is tap down in order to hit that new speed. If it goes from 50 up to 60, you could then move up in order to move into that next speed too. I'm personally not a big fan of that one, so I would personally have it off, but it comes down to a matter of preference. You've got some parking safety options, so you can adjust your camera settings. Do you want your guidelines showing, yay or nay? I'll show you those in a second because there's also rear cross traffic safety. So as you go to back up, if there's somebody in behind the vehicle, so if they're coming perpendicular from the left or right, it can let you know of a potential collision. But then you've also got your guidelines there. So as you go to rotate the wheel, you can see there the angle that the vehicle is going to be in. Pretty neat. And since this one has the around view monitor, so the full 360 cam, you can see what's going on all the way around the truck. Pretty neat. Tapping this brings you back to those other options. And park, that's pretty neat. You've got, I think that was it for driving assistance, and then you've got your beeps. So all of your different warnings and things like that. So you can adjust your warning volumes. Haptic feedback's kind of neat. So if you start to veer over into a lane without signaling, you get a steering wheel vibration, almost like you're running over rumble pavement. Or there's something wrong with your alignment. There's nothing wrong, it's just that something's going on. So the vehicle's giving you some kind of a warning. Your safety priority warnings as well. So if these are enabled, what it's going to do is lower your radio volume so that you could either have parking or driving safety pop up so you can hear what's going on. Drive modes, you've got light, medium, or heavyweight for your truck. So if you're pulling different things, you can adjust that out. Climate options are available here too. So you can recirculate air, auto defog, defrost. I recommend just keeping these ones enabled. Your seat easy entry exit. I'm not a fan of this one. But what this means is that you can either have it off, normal, or extended. So when you go to turn the truck off, it's actually going to back the seat up in order for you to get in and out of the truck a little bit easier. Not a fan of that one, but you can adjust it if you'd like. Your lights, ambient light is available inside of the ride, and it looks really neat, especially being able to select your own custom color. So if there's a color that you'd like to use that really kind of speaks to you a little bit more, you've got the flexibility of adjusting it out this way, then just tap OK in order to lock in. You could also link it to your drive mode. Where that comes into play, down the middle, you've got this little selector switch, so you'll be able to move between different drive modes. So there are different drive modes and different terrain modes. So normal mode is exactly that. It's your basic day-to-day drive. Sport mode changes your shift point. So rather than shifting at, I don't know, let's say 2,000 RPM, it might wait and shift at 3,000 plus RPM. You've got your smart mode, which is going to give you the best possible fuel economy. And then there's also a button here. So you've got drive versus terrain. So you then be able to tap that switch in order to move between drive or terrain modes. So it can play with traction control, stability control, things like that. So you're going off-road or off pavement, you can move between different options there. I'm personally a bigger fan just be in the sport mode, especially if you're just cruising, or if you want the best possible performance, go into that sport mode. But you can have that ambient light linked to your drive mode. So as you go between different drive modes, it's going to change up the color of the light. With your turn signal, do you either want to get 1, 3, 5, or 7 flashes? When you go to change lanes, welcome light. When you go to approach the vehicle, when you go to lock the vehicle, do the lamps just turn off or do they stay on for 15 seconds? And then you've also got your high beam options too. So I always recommend keeping the high beam assist on. And the way that that one works is with your stick along the left-hand side, you can move between all of your different light modes. With your auto mode, you can permanently lock your high beams out in the auto mode. All you have to do is push away twice. When you push away, it turns you into an auto headlamp mode. And what that means is that if the vehicle recognizes your high beams are needed, flips them on automatically. If somebody's oncoming, turns them off before turning them right back on again. In order to permanently lock your high beams out, you want to go into the upper headlamp mode. You then push away in order to toggle them on, pull towards you in order to toggle them off. But you're going to be in that auto mode the majority of the time. Looking at some door options, so you can figure out when the vehicle automatically locks or unlocks the door. Do you want the key fob to automatically unlock using 1 or 2 presses? And then you can also open the windows remotely. So let's step outside and I'll show you how that process works along with a few others. In order to remote start, push the lock button once, and then you're just going to push and hold that circle button. See there, remote start's going. In order to cancel remote start, just push and hold that circle button, and remote start's canceled. And there's one little key fob trick that you can do inside of the ride, and that's rolling the windows down. In order to do it, just push and hold the unlock button. So just push and hold and watch this. You can release to pause it, push and hold again. That's going to continue the process. So it's strictly the front row windows, and it's only going to be window down. I know some manufacturers have the option for window up by pushing and holding the lock. Unfortunately, North America Hyundais don't have that option. Digital keys that are available, you can use your phone as a key. There are different options there. I unfortunately can't show you this process because it's a press car, but if you want Hyundai walkthrough videos and how that's done, you'll find links down in the description. There are some basic occupant settings here too, so convenience. Occupant alert, when you go to turn the truck off, you'll get a message letting you know to check the back seats. With wireless charging, you've got your charge pad down the middle there, so there's a phone on there, which is why our lights are enabled. So you can completely disable it if you'd like to. You can change up your indicator types too if you'd like, and just keep it on the basics. You've got your trailering options, so your tow mode. If you're towing, if not, no big deal. And that's the basics of your convenience settings. You can see there, again, hopping into any of these options if you'd like to. If you had navigation, you'd have some navigation settings available, so you can adjust out your vehicle speed, showing different things, all of your guidance options, alerts, changing your map, etc. Went through all of those ones when we looked at navigation. There are some sound settings. You could have it speed dependent, so it's automatically going to increase or decrease this volume for you, just depending on how fast you're going. You can also limit the volume. So if you've got the audio cranked, you turn the truck off, back on again, it's going to limit the volume for you. You can adjust out the position. Do you want it driver focused, back focused, center focused, and then you can do a fine tune one way or the other, or bring it back to center. Tone options are here too, so treble, mid-range, and bass. I just picked this truck up. This is horrible. You're gonna reset there. What I found previously, whenever I've been inside of the Santa Cruz, treble up a point or two with the bass cranked a few points tends to sound pretty good, in my opinion. But what I'd recommend here is play one of your favorite songs, and while that's playing, adjust it until it sounds perfect for you. You can adjust out guidance options, so your volumes, alerts, and things like that. Radio noise, nothing exciting there. Driving assistant settings, which we've already seen all of these options. Connected devices, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. This is kind of neat because it gives you the flexibility of adjusting your media and voice options and things like that for both CarPlay and for Android Auto. So if you want your navigation guidance prompts to be up high, your ringtone down lower, or your media up high, you can adjust that out if you'd like to for either type of device. Device connections, if you had a phone connected, or changing your vehicle name. User profiles we can get to that way, or along the top. If you've got multiple people driving, you can easily switch between the profiles. There's voice recognition. I recommend reduce the number of prompts. And the reason why is because let's say if you were to hit the voice command prompt, get it to change radio stations. With reduce, it'll just change it, not do it and then telling you it's doing it. Screen layout, you can adjust a few different things. So you've either got a simple, modern, or a classic look, and that's going to be what the look is inside of the cluster screen. So you've got a few different looks. Personally, I don't know, I like that classic look. More of like a minimalistic, but yeah, I think I really like that classic look a little bit more. There's a screensaver that's available, and with the screen turned off, what do you want it to look like? So as of right now, there's nothing. So if we push and hold the volume button, you can see there's nothing there. Push and hold again in order to turn it on. Clock with a few different clock faces. So do you want digital clock? Do you want an analog instead? So if we toggle the screen off, you can see there, we've got our date and time, bringing it back again, and then your split screen. So if you had factory nav, that would be there, but it's which way or which options show up here and in which order. So if you are back in your maps there, it's this. What order does this show up? With the display, you can adjust the brightness automatically. So it's going to make the screen darker or brighter, just depending on how bright it is outside. You can adjust the camera contents there, which we've already seen. You can also toggle on a blue light filter. So later on at night, yeah, you can see there immediately the difference. So do you want it cooler or warmer? But you can also have it done automatically. So if the vehicle recognizes it's a little bit too bright out, it's going to get rid of some of those colors just to make it easier on your eyes. You can also set it at certain times. There are a few unique buttons that are available. So there are a few on the steering wheel and then under the screen. We're starting off with our custom button down the middle. So that's this little fella right there. So when you tap that, what do you want it to do? Do you want it to bring you home, reject calls, reroute? If you didn't have factory nav, some of these options wouldn't be here. I'm personally a big fan of turning the display on or off. So when I hit that button now, toggles the display off or back on again. Then there are two unique steering wheel buttons. So when you hit the star button on the steering wheel, what does this one do? Does it turn the media on off? Does it turn the display off or bring you back to the home screen? When you hit the mode button, that's the one along the top of the steering wheel there. What does that do? If you tend to listen to just FM or maybe SiriusXM and Sounds of Nature, you can do that now. So that if we hit mode, you can see it moving between all of the available sources that you've selected. Your up-down button along the steering wheel there, what do you want it to do? And then your knobs. So this versus this. Volume versus tuning, but you can swap it out so that this would be volume, that would be tuning. So you can adjust it out a few different ways if you'd like to. Simple. You can adjust out the cluster, so the brightness of the cluster screen, if you wanted to adjust that out, you'd have that flexibility. Down by your left knee, there are a few other switches too. So you could adjust the brightness of the cluster screen this way. You can toggle on bed lighting, toggle traction control on or off, and then put yourself into tow mode if you're towing anything inside of the truck. You can adjust out your camera settings, which again, we've already seen. So a few of these things, you'll notice that they're available in different parts of the vehicle. You could adjust out your cluster theme. What content do you want showing up? Do you want your blind spot view monitor there if your truck has it? Welcome sound playing, yay or nay when you start the truck up. Blue links available, and then there are a series of general settings. And general settings gives you so many options. So your basic info about the vehicle, you can do USB updates. System info, you can see what storage is available. It's god-awful. 120 megs is brutally small, but you can't download apps and things like that to the vehicles, so that kind of makes sense. You can also adjust your date and time. So if you're on any other screen, you can tap the date or time to adjust it, but do you want to be in the 12 versus 24-hour mode? Do you want to set automatically? So I normally would recommend keeping it on automatic, but you can adjust it out manually yourself if you'd like to. Do you want to adjust out for daylight savings time? You've got your languages, so do you want to be in either English, French, Spanish, or Korean? You can adjust your keyboard, and then there is also measurement units. That's one of the nice things about being a fully digital cluster, is that as you adjust this out, kilometers, miles, etc., it automatically adjusts everything for you. You can see along the bottom, it's going to adjust out your odometer, vehicle speed, things like that. You can adjust out your temperature. So do you want to be in either Celsius or Fahrenheit? And then your fuel economy units are going to be based off of your main distance. So if you're in miles US, so you've got your miles per gallon, you can swap out whichever way you'd like. Do you want your tire pressure measured in PSI, kPa, or bar? Media options there too. So when you turn the truck off, back on again, do you want media to just not be playing? Do you want to continue playing media for a few minutes after the vehicle's turned off? And then you can also do a reset. So as of right now, this is grayed out because I'm in the guest profile. If you were in one of the main profiles, you could then reset everything, which would essentially wipe the infotainment system so that it brings it back to the factory default. There's also a way to do a soft reset, which I'll show you towards the end of the infotainment walkthrough. Underneath the screen, you've got your volume rocker, tuning rocker, and then these are buttons in order to get to different elements of the screen. So your map options, search, media, seek, and things like that. One neat thing though is that if you don't have factory navigation inside of your ride and you tap the map icon, that's going to launch you into maps on your phone. So if you're connected through Android or iPhone devices and you tap that, it's going to pull up your map automatically. You can search for things, you can swap between different types of media. You've got your 4-way blinkers, seek between stations. You can jump into your setup screen there too. And then back home. There's dual zone climate control, heated first row seats with ventilated first row as an option, along with a button for a heated steering wheel, and then your climate control settings underneath. Down low, you've also got your USB Type-C power point. So this one is going to be either for just charging or for charging and data. There's also going to be one just for charging. There's a 12 volt there, and then a wireless charge pad. Shifter feels excellent in the hands. There's also a manual mode, so you can swap across in order to be able to adjust gears out. You can also do that using paddle shifters. If you've never used paddles before, check down in the description of this video for how that's done. Down low, options for adjusting drive terrain modes. You've got the auto hold setting here too. So with that one enabled, what's going to happen is if you come down to a complete stop, take your foot off the brake, the truck is not going to move. You've got your parking brake there too. So you're going to pull up in order to turn the parking brake on. In order to turn it off, you're going to hit the brake and then push down in order to turn it off. Then there's a button there for your 360 camera, if it's available. So if you didn't have the surround view monitor, you would just have the backup camera there. But I mean, I like that. That looks good. Nice. Let's say if the screen's giving you problems. So Apple CarPlay's not working, Android Auto's not working, navigation's not working, the screen's glitching out on you. You could do a full factory reset. So under your general settings and then reset, if you weren't in the guest profile, you could just do a reset all, and that's essentially going to wipe the screen out. But you can also do a soft screen reboot, and that's the best way to do it. So what you're going to do, grab a paper clip. From there, just underneath the screen, so you can see right next to the tuning rocker along the right, there's a little hole there. You're just going to take your paper clip, insert, and that's going to toggle the screen off. So it's very similar to you doing a reset on your phone. So if you just do a reset on your phone and restart it, it's going to wipe away any issues that it might be facing. So soft reboot cycle, you can do it while you're driving. It's a nice simple fix, but that should get rid of the majority of problems that you're facing. If that doesn't fix anything or the problem that you're facing, you're going to do that full factory reset. If that doesn't fix the problem, then you're going to bring it into your dealer. But I know that's a lot of information. That's everything you need to know about the infotainment system inside of the Hyundai Santa Cruz.